Hello, my name is Ribbled80A, and today I will talk about carbon pricing because I've saw a lot of misinformation about carbon pricing on Twitter. Um, there's people like former MP Dan McTagg who mix up um, weather and climate, and a lot of people are misleading a lot of Canadians on carbon pricing. And this is from the Eco uh, Canada's Eco Fiscal Commission. 10 myths about carbon pricing in Canada. It says that carbon pricing has a lot of advantage, and it's a practical and meaningful way to shrink greenhouse gas emissions. I should also note that forest fires are burning right now at record amounts, and I've seen a lot of people show that forest fires have been declining. Um, there's multiple factors at play with regard to forest fires. Excessive fire suppression is one factor that has led to um, the the fires that we see today across Canada. And there's also climate change has also played a role, but it's not just climate change that's impacting forest fires. And also, people like to have selective data. So Ecofiscal Commission is saying that it's a practical way to reduce carbon emissions without significant impact on jobs or economic prosperity. And then polluters take responsibility for the pollution that they create. So this is myth number one. Carbon pricing is a new untested idea. And then there was like a graph. Um, so carbon pricing has been around for decades in Europe. In the US, there's been other pricing mechanisms. Uh, they gave the example the US reduced pollution causing acid rain by 34% um, because they put a price on acid rain. Alberta has had a carbon price since 2007, British Columbia since 2008. And then those examples of how it is working. And then those the requirement for provinces to take action. Provinces can design their own policies, and then the federal government sets minimum. So there's a second myth: only very high carbon prices are effective. Um, so yeah, if you think about it, uh, people do respond to price increases. I remember um, the plastic bags when there was a uh, what was it? It cost 5 cents for a plastic bag. People responded by using less plastic bags. So there was a change in behavior because people saw um, the cost, and 5 cents is really nothing, but it still had an impact on the amount of plastic bags, and more people used reusable bags. So that's an example that I can relate it to. This says even low carbon prices work to shrink emissions. Low carbon prices. So there's an incentive for people to use carbon more efficiency, use less of it, or substitute for other products where possible. Um, so people will try to avoid paying the tax when they can. Um, there's lots of innovation. And then they gave the British Columbia example. Uh, fuel economy improved. Canada's vehicles are one of the least energy efficient vehicles. Um, there was a reduction of natural gas per capita of 7%, reduction in gasoline use by 7%, reduced diesel use by 3.3%. So, and then other countries have had it: Sweden, Finland, Denmark, and the Netherlands. Um, so yeah, it said that British Columbians were 4 times more responsive to changes in gas prices caused by the carbon tax than price changes caused by other market forces. Carbon pricing is more effective over the long term because carbon prices also drives innovation. Reduce emissions at a lower cost. So when the conservatives and other politicians complain about the carbon tax, um, they will force us into higher cost um, programs to reduce the same amount of greenhouse gases. And we should reduce greenhouse gases because it leads to increased forest fires, wetlands, and forest fires, floods, extreme weather events, which is separate than weather. Climate change is not weather. There's been steep declines in renewable energy, and they're cost competitive with fossil fuels. And then there's like a third myth: carbon pricing impacting Canadian families. That's a huge myth. But most of the money will be returned, and those rebates. Um, so and then those like funding infrastructure and public transit. So 70% of households will have a rebate for people who file their taxes. And the rebate is shown to be higher than the the carbon costs for the average household. From these graphs, average carbon cost and rebates under the federal backstop. And then there was like a myth about jobs. That's a huge one. Like the environmental policies can create jobs. A lot of jobs have shifted to cleaner sectors, and um, there's been a 2% increase in jobs in British Columbia, and there was no effect on overall employment in the subsequent study. And then carbon prices changes the kinds of jobs people do, but not the total number of jobs. There's a myth about big polluters getting break, but it applies to big polluters as well. There's an incentive for firms to lower their emissions so that they can be competitive with other organizations. Um, so businesses that can find this is a quote businesses that can find new ways to avoid producing emissions will lower the carbon cost and gain an advantage over the competition. And then there's like a huge myth that I keep hearing: carbon pricing is a cash grab. Um, well, the government isn't keeping the revenues, and then households will receive a lot of the money, as previously said. And then some of the money will be spent on small businesses, municipalities, and schools and hospitals. And provinces can decide how to use it. There's like a couple of examples. A $30 ton in Manitoba could ensure anyone owning 31,000 or less pays no provincial income tax. $50 per ton carbon tax, Ontario could cut its lowest income tax bracket by almost 2%. And it's $4.9 billion in revenue. And if you remember, the gas plant scandal was $1 billion, and I forgot the year, but it was when the Liberals were in power, probably 2018. And that was one of the and 4.9 billion. That's almost 5 times that amount, and you can do a lot with that. Not everyone will be able to respond to carbon prices right away, but some people will. And then there's like a lot more options that we have. Oh, this is like um, a figure of some of the ways that we can uh, reduce emissions. So driving less, we could carpool, bike, walk, telecommute, use public transit, combine errands, take the bus, subway, light rail, depending on where you live. So this is just like a flow chart. Um, and then there's innovation. And we should be careful about innovation, solving environmental issues. We'll be mindful of it, that we shouldn't rely on innovation, um, because if more people pollute, but um, if more people use the innovation to pollute than would otherwise, then it's not a net benefit. If I hopefully that makes sense. Uh, and then Canadians can avoid the carbon price and collect a rebate. and then subsidies are generally an expensive way to lower emissions, and regulations are more expensive. And then they gave examples. Um, and then carbon pricing is lowest climate policy, and people still pay even if you don't see what's happening, um, through like tax cuts or tax increases to pay for the subsidies. And then Canada's not carbon neutral. Um, and then Canada will experience floods, heat waves, sea level rise, and then it could cost Canada $21 to $43 billion a year by 2050. And then countries, this is interesting from this article. Uh, Canada is the ninth largest emitting country, and countries that emit less than Canada make up 30% of global emissions. Okay, and then um, there was an article from Clean Prosperity. It's saying that carbon pricing is low cost and it lets people choose how to respond. Gives individuals agency over what they do, instead of picking people to lower their emissions. Revenue that can be returned. It's easy to administer as well. And then, yes, there was. I watched City Council on, let's see, in Peterborough on the 26th, and I saw like some climate denials. So also newspaper. I think there was an article written about it. Um, Here it is. Money trees. It's called Money Trees Not Expected to Grow at City Hall. It says, I'll highlight it. Two climate denials took to the stand to voice their unprofessional opinion on science around climate change while um, adamantly demanding they did in fact know what they were talking about. So Maggie Braun um, uh, spoke, um, and John Dunn spoke. Um, and then Dunn stated that he was not a climate scientist. And it's important to note that like you can't really Google Google is not neutral. Google manipulates what you see in the search engine. Yeah, so there's that. And then those other news out of Peterborough, the Parkway, there was a notice of motion dealing with the Parkway, and that notice of motion was ruled out of order. So for now, it's not going to happen. But yeah, there was a lot of push to pave over a trail going through the city and green space, and um, the city has land available. Yeah, so those were like what I prepared to talk about. Let's see. Oh, where? Oh yeah, I could talk about like Google. Let's just go to Google. Yeah. So right now, Google has announced that it will not show Canadian news content in the forms of links. So this is going to hold a lot of Canadian news, and this is as a result of Bill C-18. So those alternatives to Google, Duck, DuckGo is one alternative. And it doesn't track what you did previously online. So I think that's a um, useful tool. And there's also well, maybe I can just go alternatives to Google. See what comes up. 21 great search engines you can use instead of Google. Okay, so those u.com. Oh, I might change the title of this now that I'm talking about something else. Let's see, Google and then Canadian news. So I just changed the title. And so there's you. So they have private mode, which is untraceable. And then they say no telemetry data is recorded. Um, and then there's open source platform, which encourages developers to build apps and encourages a more open and collaborative internet. Yep.com. It's designed to directly reward and compensate content creators by using a 90-10 revenue share business model. So that might be good. OpenVoice. OpenVoice is for copyright free content. Um, so that might be good to search. Mainstream search engines. Um, there's Bing.com. Yahoo.com. There's privacy-focused search engines. DuckDuckGo. Start Page. It's for those who prefer Google search results but don't like search history tracked and stored. URL generator, proxy service, and HTTPS support. Swiss cows, Jibaroo, knowledge-based search engines, Wiki.com, Twiddle. I don't recommend Twiddle as a search engine because of all the transphobia. Slideshow. So that's like for slideshows. Wayback Machine. Uh, it's old websites, documented material, uh, free video, books, music, and software. Browser-based, Brave, privacy-focused. Oh, just lost my screen for a second. Niva. Oh, what does Niva do? You can customize the search results by choosing preferred retailers and news sources and provides expert recommended shopping results. Recipe results with filters for cook time, ingredients, and reviews. And then those specialized ones. Um, and then some of the features you can pay for. The Wolfram Alpha is a computer intelligence that allows you to compute answers to problems. Um, and then it's $5.49 per month. Shorex. It's a meta search engine that provides search results from multiple sources without tracking the user's activity. It's open source. It mixes core user search results on other platforms and never source search data. International search engines. Baidu. It's largest search engines in China. Yandex. It's a search engine in Russia. Sagu is a Chinese search engine. Naver is a search engine in South Korea. Um, yeah, so and hopefully, I don't know if these other search engines are included in Bill C-18, which recently passed, but these are alternatives if you cannot find Canadian news or when Google removes Canadian news content. And it's important to read the news because especially more local news, because you hear about environmental issues, you hear about meetings that way, um, notices of environment. Um, anyways, I hope that you enjoy the rest of your night and have a good one.